The recent arrest of Sean Diddy Combs has ignited concerns that the media's focus is more on ensuring he's not scapegoated, while crimes committed by Hollywood elites continue to be swept under the rug, much like the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. The glaring issue lies in how these high-profile cases are often managed, with critical connections and offenders remaining hidden from the public eye. As the media speculates about Diddy's fate, they should investigate more deeply into the prosecutor's background, one who seems strategically placed to protect other influential figures, ensuring that the true breadth of these networks remains unexposed. Before we go on, don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Check out my store, which is linked in the video description. And if you'd like to help with my expenses, leave a tip under the super thanks button below the video. Okay, so let's see what is going on with Diddy and see if there's any hope of the numerous celebrities involved with him being prosecuted, or if he's another fall guy like Epstein. Generally, the Southern District of New York, or SDNY, would not have jurisdiction over a California resident who has never committed a crime or had any connection to New York. Jurisdiction is typically based on either location or subject matter. However, there are some exceptions where the SDNY could have jurisdiction over a non-resident. Those exceptions include crimes with a federal nexus. If the crime crosses state lines or involves interstate or international activity, like wire fraud or conspiracy, a district court like the SDNY could have jurisdiction even if the person resides in California, as long as some part of the crime is connected to New York, such as money transfers, phone calls, or emails. Another reason why the Southern District of New York might handle the prosecution is due to jurisdictional connections. If any part of the criminal act, such as financial transactions or communications, occurred in New York or affected institutions in New York like Wall Street or New York-based companies, the SDNY could assert jurisdiction. Lastly, in some cases, even if a crime occurred in California, federal prosecutors might choose to prosecute in the SDNY due to special expertise or connections to the case, for instance, large financial crimes. In general, however, federal cases must be prosecuted in the district where the crime occurred or where relevant conduct took place. So why would Sean Diddy be prosecuted in New York? According to the indictment, Combs allegedly organized events in New York, including the transportation of women across state lines for trafficking. These actions involved interstate commerce, which allegedly gave federal jurisdiction to the SDNY. Additionally, financial transactions and communication related to the racketeering activities were likely processed through New York-based institutions, further solidifying SDNY's involvement. So when this crime is prosecuted, you might want to look for any ties to New York, which would validate prosecution in New York. So let's take a closer look at the U.S. attorney who announced a 3-count indictment against Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, who was indicted in September 2024 by the Southern District of New York, or SDNY, on charges including racketeering conspiracy and minor trafficking. The indictment alleges that from 2008 through 2024, Combs orchestrated a criminal enterprise that abused, exploited, and trafficked women across multiple states, including New York. He allegedly organized events called freak-offs, where women were coerced into inappropriate activities, sometimes with male commercial prostitute, often under the influence of drugs that he supplied. The indictment also claims that Combs used violence, threats, and recordings of these events to maintain control over his victims, and engaged in bribery and obstruction of justice to cover up these. This is very reminiscent of the way Jeffrey Epstein controlled his victims. The prosecutor is Damen Williams, who is the U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. Williams is a Democrat appointed by Joe Biden on October 10, 2021, and he leads a staff of approximately 450 lawyers, special agents, paralegals, and other support professionals. Williams also went to Harvard University and Yale, which is home to the Skull and Bones. Williams began his legal career as a law clerk to Judge Merrick Garland, so we are going to take a look at Merrick Garland. If you've ever watched the House Judiciary Committee and the House Oversight Committee hearings, you understand how evasive and reprehensible Merrick Garland is. He refused to cooperate with investigations into Joe Biden and his son Hunter, and is subject to multiple subpoenas which he refuses to comply with. Additionally, Garland is the one overseeing all of the frivolous lawsuits against Donald Trump. Of course, all investigations are ongoing, which Garland believes makes him above the law in reference to congressional inquiries. This enables them not to disclose information such as the hundreds of other high-profile associates that voluntarily engaged in similar crimes. Just like the hundreds, maybe thousands of pedos that Ghislaine Maxwell served. Now that you know how he got his start, let's get back to the prosecutor on Diddy's case. Damen Williams worked for John Kerry's 2004 presidential campaign and also for the chairman of the Democratic National Committee. He is listed as a registered Democrat on Wikipedia. In March 2021, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer recommended Williams to be the next U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. On August 10, 2021, President Joe Biden nominated Williams to serve in the role. Upon his confirmation, Williams was slated to oversee cases including the trial of Jeffrey Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell and the case of Sayfullo Habibullayevic Saipov, who was charged with committing the 2017 New York City truck attack. Williams also oversaw the indictment of Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin, who resigned after being arrested on federal bribery charges. After Epstein's arrest in July 2019, the prosecution was handled by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. The very same Damen Williams, as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, was involved in overseeing the subsequent investigations and legal proceedings related to Epstein's criminal activities, including those against his associates. While the narrative is that Williams was hired to prosecute Epstein associates, the only one he prosecuted was Ghislaine Maxwell. Alan Dershowitz was involved in legal battles related to allegations from Epstein's victims, but was never charged or prosecuted by the SDNY or any other jurisdiction in connection with Epstein. In addition to prosecuting Epstein, Williams and his office prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's close associate, who was convicted in 2021 on charges related to her role in Epstein's trafficking operation. Ghislaine Maxwell is a British socialite and former associate of convicted trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. She has been accused of aiding Epstein in his trafficking scheme, which involved recruiting and grooming underage girls for abuse by Epstein and his associates. Maxwell was arrested in July 2020 and charged with multiple counts of conspiracy to entice minors to engage in illegal intimate acts and perjury. She was denied bail and was held in federal custody until her incarceration. On December 29, 2021, Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty on 5 out of 6 counts, including trafficking of a minor. She faced up to 65 years in prison. The verdict was seen as a victory for the survivors of Epstein's abuse, but did anybody really pay? I can tell you, when I was an investigator, I would have opened cases on everyone where hard video evidence existed, and I wouldn't have stopped until they were all brought to justice. On June 28, 2022, the gavel fell, and Maxwell's fate was sealed. U.S. District Judge Allison J. Nathan sentenced her to 20 years in federal prison, a punishment that echoed the gravity of her crimes. Maxwell was convicted on 5 charges, including trafficking of a minor, transporting a minor with the intent to engage in criminal activity, and conspiracy to entice minors to travel to engage in such illegal acts. As Maxwell's world crumbled, the spotlight swung to her infamous Black Book. Names of the rich and powerful were whispered in hushed tones, but who would any of them face scrutiny for their crimes against these young slaves on the island? While many high-profile individuals were associated with Maxwell and Epstein, prosecutions have been non-existent. Prince Andrew, perhaps the most notorious name linked to the scandal, faced a civil suit that he settled out of court. The lack of criminal charges against him and others has left many questioning whether justice is alive in any form. Sarah Kellen, Epstein's former assistant, was named as a possible co-conspirator, but has not been charged. Jean-Luc Brunel, a French modeling agent linked to Epstein, was arrested in France in 2020 but died in prison before trial. Leslie Groff, another former assistant, had charges against her dropped in 2021. The crimes of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were entrenched with a network of powerful individuals who allegedly benefited from or participated in Epstein's trafficking ring. This web of connections stretched from the upper echelons of business and politics to the glittering world of celebrity. Some of the high-profile names that have been associated with Epstein and Maxwell include Prince Andrew, Duke of York, former U.S. President Bill Clinton, billionaire Leslie Wexner, and attorney Alan Dershowitz, to name just a couple. The 166-name Epstein list was released after Maxwell's trial. Prosecutors have said that 50% of these names had no relationship to Epstein or Maxwell. My thoughts are that the Epstein list is nothing more than a distraction. The reality is that if they wanted to prosecute the high-profile Johns involved, they have videotapes of every one of the perverts. So why haven't they done anything to put these rapists behind bars? None of them or any other high-profile associates have been criminally charged in direct connection to the Epstein-Maxwell trafficking ring. I understand that perps can be flipped, but who needs them with a library of videotapes? This is a prosecutor's dream. Why hasn't Merrick or Williams prosecuted anybody? Perhaps their job is to conceal and protect the high-profile celebrities, politicians, and other elite who are part of the Perv Club. Could they be part of the club? Something is definitely going on. Token patsies are all over the media, and then the crimes of the others are buried once the outrage is over. Let's look at a few other clients of Attorney General Damen Williams. On December 13, 2022, Williams led the team that resulted in the indictment of Sam Bankman Fried, the founder of cryptocurrency exchange FTX, on 8 counts of fraud and conspiracy. He was sentenced to 25 years in prison in March 2024 after being convicted of multiple counts of fraud. He orchestrated one of the largest financial fraud schemes in history, misappropriating billions of dollars from FTX customers and investors. The trial revealed that he used around $40 million of these funds for personal expenses, investments, and political contributions, primarily to Democratic candidates and causes. In fact, Williams donated to over 60 federal candidates and groups, including major contributions to super PACs supporting Democrats, such as $7 million to congressional super PACs and $10 million backing specific candidates. He also contributed 95% of the funding for the Democratic-aligned super PAC Protect Our Future, which focused on causes like pandemic preparedness. Federal prosecutors revealed that a significant portion of these donations went to Democratic candidates and super PACs, with over $40 million spent in the 2022 election cycle alone. As of now, there have been no significant investigations within the Democratic Party related directly to the improper donations. So, $40 million of misappropriated funds were accepted by Democrats and were never prosecuted. What's the common thread with Maxwell, Epstein, and Bankman Fried? Next, on March 23, 2023, Damen Williams indicted Do Kwon, co-founder of Terra USD, on 8 counts of fraud and conspiracy. Do Kwon is the co-founder of Terraform Labs, the company behind the Terra blockchain, including the algorithmic stablecoin Terra USD, known as UST, and its sister cryptocurrency, Luna. The Terra USD and Luna collapse was so newsworthy because it caused billions of dollars in losses, shaking the entire crypto market. It also exposed flaws in algorithmic stablecoins, triggered regulatory scrutiny, and involved high-profile figures in the crypto space. The massive financial impact and the questions it raised about cryptocurrency stability made it a major story. The collapse led to allegations of fraud and mismanagement against Do Kwon, with some viewing it as a potential case of misleading investors. The legal investigations and Do Kwon's high-profile status in the crypto world added fuel to the story. One especially interesting fact is that Eric Schmidt, former Google CEO, invested around $10 million in Terraform Labs and the Terra ecosystem. Schmidt did not face indictment or criminal charges related to the collapse of Terra USD and Luna, and there are no public records indicating that Schmidt lost money like most other investors did. So we have a case involving a near collapse of the crypto system, and the CEO owns a large portion of the company responsible but never faces charges. Notice any similarities? Then, on September 22, 2023, Williams announced the indictment of Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey, a Democrat, on bribery charges. Senator Menendez has been prosecuted twice for taking bribes. Initially, on April 1, 2015, Menendez was indicted for charges of bribery, fraud, and conspiracy. He was accused of accepting bribes from Dr. Salomon Melgen, a Florida ophthalmologist, in exchange for using his influence as a U.S. senator to benefit Melgen. In 2017, the trial ended with a mistrial due to a deadlocked jury, and in 2018, the Department of Justice decided to drop the charges. Menendez was again indicted in 2023, and Williams is handling the case. The second indictment again includes charges of bribery. The allegations are similar in nature to those in the first case, accusing Menendez of accepting bribes in exchange for using his position to influence U.S. government actions. These bribes were allegedly also received from Dr. Salomon Melgen and other associates. The blatant gall of these people is amazing. It comes as no shock that details about other individuals involved in providing bribes were not outlined in the indictment, but it was implied that multiple associates may have been involved. Sound familiar? The case is ongoing, and the final outcome has not yet been determined. Nobody except Menendez was charged. Damen Williams also prosecuted Lieutenant Governor Brian Benjamin, a former New York politician who faced significant legal issues. Brian Benjamin served as the Lieutenant Governor of New York from March 2021 until his resignation in April 2022. Prior to being Lieutenant Governor, Benjamin was a New York State Senator representing Harlem. Benjamin was a member of the Democratic Party and was known for his connections within the Democratic Party and had various political endorsements and support from influential figures in New York politics. Well connected within New York State politics, his political support came primarily from local and state-level Democratic leaders and organizations within New York. In April 2022, Brian Benjamin was arrested and charged with federal corruption charges, including bribery, fraud, and conspiracy. The charges stemmed from allegations that he participated in a scheme involving the exchange of bribes for political favors. The allegations included claims that Benjamin accepted bribes in exchange for directing state funds to organizations that would then benefit his political allies. Benjamin was convicted on several counts related to corruption. His trial revealed evidence of wrongdoing involving campaign finance and bribery. In January 2023, Benjamin was sentenced to a prison term. He received a sentence of 7 years in federal prison for his convictions. Please understand that there are many Republicans at many levels who have also committed fraudulent schemes and taken bribes as well. This is not about who is corrupt. Lots and lots of them are. This is about the Southern District of New York, Damen Williams who runs it, and whether there is cause to believe that we will ever see the prosecution of a plethora of powerful and famous people who have committed horrible crimes. So let's recap. For some reason, cases that would normally be prosecuted in other jurisdictions are being prosecuted by the SDNY under Damen Williams. Williams is heavily funded and supported by very bad Democrats like Merrick Garland and Chuck Schumer. The cases handled by his office involve a lot of very powerful people that are never investigated or prosecuted. Cases with videotape evidence of hundreds of high-profile and influential people are not being prosecuted. First in the Epstein case, now in the Diddy case, and who knows why, is being covered up in the crypto cases. What are your thoughts on this? Are these cases being pushed to the Southern District of New York, where Williams is protecting the many powerful associates of these high-profile criminals? More importantly, will we ever see justice if we don't get these reptilian people out of office? You tell me, because I don't think the arrest of Diddy or Epstein were any more than a token prosecution to make the world think that they are doing something when in fact they are just that, a token. And there are many more that are being allowed to continue these crimes. I mean, really. Do you think these perverts are going to turn over a new leaf because 2 people got arrested?